أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى لقاء يوم الدين. We're gathered here in these days where we commemorate the martyrdom of our beloved mother, Hazrat Zahra alayha salam. It's important for us to understand a little bit more about this great lady. There's so many ahadith, so many verses in the Holy Quran that speak about this great lady. It's very important for us to understand these and not to understand them in a very rushed manner. Many of these ahadith, many of these verses, we've memorized them. Our children have even memorized them. It's upon us to contemplate over these. And the second part, so we'll be speaking about this in the first part. The second part, we'll be speaking about how we can take her as a role model in our life. Again, this is something that is very common. You ask somebody, who is your role model? They say, Hazrat Zahra salamullah alayha. But how can we really be sure that she is our real role model in our lives? To begin to understand her station, her rank, if we just pay attention to this phrase that we've heard so many times, the most famous quality of this great lady is Sayyidatu Nisa'il Alameen. We say this probably a few times in our day, in our ziyarat, when we think of this great lady. But if we just stop for a second and think about this sentence, this phrase, Sayyidatu Nisa'il Alameen, gather all of the women, including all of the great women, her own mother, Bibi Khadija, Bibi Maryam, Bibi Asya, all of the great women in history and the great women in today's day and age. All of these women on one side, Hazrat Zahra salamullah alayha is the master, Sayyidatu Nisa'il Alameen. It doesn't even say that she's the greatest of them. The words are the words of the Holy Prophet, the words of our Imams. These are not words that were made by mistake. It doesn't say that she is the greatest of women. It says she is the master of all women. This is the rank of this great lady. In fact, this hadith even exists in the books of the Ahlul Sunnah. In fact, in their most authentic books as well. There's a hadith in Sahih Bukhari where the Holy Prophet comes to this great lady and says, أَلَا تَرْضَيْنَ أَن تَكُونِي سَيِّدَةَ نِسَاءِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Is it not satisfying for you that you will be the master of the believing women? So this is a hadith that is in our books, in the Shia books, also in the Sunni books. And it shows the level of this lady. I just want to put this point across more clearly. Quote one of the Maraji. He mentions this line. Sometimes when you read these lines, you begin to understand that we cannot really comprehend the rank of this great lady. This Marja says, for a small person like myself, it is extremely difficult to speak about such a personality. Sometimes we think that this is a great lady, but she's a great lady, we understand. No, this Marja is saying that we cannot even, a person like me who's very small, cannot even begin to speak about such a personality. He says we have some thoughts and a perception of her in our minds. But where is this in terms of her real reality? Her reality is much greater than we can understand. And then he goes on to say, the daughter of the Prophet is the lost secret of the true ma'arif and the true realities that people are seeking. We have to understand the rank of these individuals is not something that we say, okay, alhamdulillah, she was a great lady. No. This is something that our maraja, the ones who are the forefront in knowledge and piety, are saying we cannot begin to comprehend this great lady. How can we even begin to understand the rank of a woman, of a lady? That, again, there's a hadith we've heard, but I want you to think about this. I want you to imagine this. the narration that again we have in the books of Ahl Sunnah. Sunan Tirmidhi has this book, which is one of their very reliable books, and it's also in the Shia books and it's narrated from Aisha as well, that when the Prophet was seated somewhere and Hazrat Zahra salamullahi alayha would enter, the Prophet would stand and come towards her. And he would kiss her and he would make her sit where he was sitting. Now, just to give this some perspective, right? We've heard this hadith. I'm sure every single one of us has heard this hadith. But just for some perspective, imagine you are around your marja, you are around your greatest individual that you recognize, you know of. And suddenly his daughter walks in. And this marja, every time, the hadith says this is what the Prophet used to do. It's not about when he went for travel and journeys, because that has another hadith. How he would leave her house last and come back from journey to her house first. Every time she would enter his presence, the Prophet would stand up, kiss her, and make her sit where he was seated. Now just imagine you've gone to visit this great marja, and suddenly his daughter walks in and he stands up. You find it very strange. Why is this person stood up? And then he goes forward and he kisses her and tells her, please sit in my spot, sit where I'm seated. You start to think that this daughter is no ordinary person. You start to understand that she must have a rank that I'm not understanding. And in reality, this great personality, or in the true instance, the Holy Prophet is trying to show the other people that this person is no ordinary person. Some people, it may come to their minds that it's because the Prophet wanted to respect his daughter. She's the daughter of the Prophet. The Prophet is telling us all to respect our daughters. But this doesn't make sense. The Holy Prophet, that each and every one of his actions was based on wahi, was based on the divine guidance. In fact, if his daughter didn't have merit, if she didn't have value, for him to stand and kiss and give her his spot would be favoritism. Would be him preferring his family members just because they're his family members. The reality is, this is to show the rank of this great personality. And he showed the people around him that this is no ordinary person. There's a beautiful story in al-Ridha of Shaykh al-Tusi. Shaykh al-Tusi has a book called al-Ridha. And it's mentioned that at the time of Ghaibat Sughra, after the 11th Imam has passed away, some people begin to discuss, and their names are mentioned in the hadith. I'll mention a part of the Arabic hadith, you can refer to it. And they begin to discuss that, is there really a 12th Imam or no? And there's one person, he says that he's starting to create doubts and saying that, look, these are all imagination. Some of the Shias get together and they write a letter to Nahiya. And Nahiya is basically, they would send through the representative to the Imam. We have many letters, tawqi'at would come from the Imam. It's written An-Nahiya. An-Nahiyatul Muqaddasa. The ziyarah is called Nahiya because it's attributed to the Imam. And a letter came from An-Nahiya, from the Holy Imam himself. And the Imam responds to these questions. He says that, do you think that with the passing of an Imam, Allah will leave the religion alone, without a guide? It's a very beautiful answer. I'll just dwell on this for a second and move on to our discussion. The same concept exists after the passing away of the Holy Prophet. The Holy Quran mentions that the Holy Prophet is a human amongst yourselves. If he passes away, will you turn around and go back? Allah sent a whole religion with so many instructions, such clear guidance for humanity. Now the Prophet has passed away, everything's finished. The same, the Imam says that, do you think after the passing of the Imam, Allah would leave humankind on their own? And he answers it. It's a lengthy answer. At the end, he mentions a point. This is what I wanted to mention. And he says to the Shia, the people that are his followers, he tells them that, وَلَوْلَا مَا عِنْدَنَا مِن مَحَبَّةِ صَلَاحِكُمْ. If it was not for that we love, the Ahlul Bayt loves to straighten your affairs, to correct your affairs. وَرَحْمَتِكُمْ وَالْإِشْفَاقِ عَلَيْكُمْ, and to be compassionate, to be merciful upon you. Know that there is a lot going on. We are occupied with the zalimeen. Now there's different tafasir. You can refer to the books who he means. He in fact says zalim, and he gives his characteristics, al-utul, al-dal, al-multataba' fi ghayyihi, and it goes on. Now the Imam is saying that there is a zalim I'm facing, and what he's doing is he's pulling people to the wrong path. But look how beautifully alive this character of Hazrat Zahra is in the lives of our Imam. That this Imam is writing a letter to his Shia. He's saying that I'm faced with this zalim and it's very occupying. Okay, Imam, the point is finished. And the letter. But the Imam says, no, I must mention a point. وَفِي ابْنَةِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ لِي أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. In the daughter of the Holy Prophet, for me, the 12th Imam is an exemplar, is a role model. The Imam is saying that in the daughter of the Holy Prophet, Hazrat Zahra, salamullah alayha, is an exemplar, is a role model for me, the 12th Imam. And it's very beautiful. You look at the context. The context is of dhulm. The context of dhulm and how the Imam is going to resist in the face of this dhulm. And he says the example for me in this is who? My mother. Now a person that our 12th Imam takes as a role model and says I'm doing ta'assi, means I'm seeking their model of how they carried out their activities, and I'm going to follow that, I'm going to emulate that. For us, it is an honor if we're able to have such a role model. It's a very powerful hadith that the 12th Imam says in the letter. There's no need to mention this over here. But the Shi'as must know the rank of this great lady. That the Imam is saying that she is my role model at this difficult time. So a personality that the 12th Imam takes as his role model, of course, if, like I mentioned, if we are able to take such a role model, this would be an honor for us. This would be everything all together for us. But the question now is, what does it mean to take this great lady as a role model? Why should we ask this question? This question is a very important question because if you go around, whether it be in Qum or in the different communities around the world, and ask people, especially sisters, that who is your role model? Many of them, a majority I would think of them, especially if a religious scholar or a person from a religious background were to ask them, would say my role model is the great lady, Hazrat Zahra, salamullah alayha. But if everyone's claiming it, how can we check and how can we make sure that this claim is correct? One point to keep in mind is that some people may think that this great lady is an excellent role model for our sisters, women. One answer to this doubt is very clear in the hadith that I just read for you. The Imam himself is saying that my mother and the daughter of the Holy Prophet is an exemplar for me. Two, there are verses of the Holy Quran which are very beautiful. In fact, some of these verses, if we think about them, they're a good answer for certain doubts. Surah Tahrim, verse number 11, Allah says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا. Allah is giving an example and saying this is somebody that you must be like. There's a person that you should look at their life and take lessons from their life. Who? Imra'ata Fir'aun. Allah is saying for the people who believe, the wife of Fir'aun is an example. This is not for only women, right? Alladhina amanu is the plural, that's the masculine plural that includes men and women in this. So this shouldn't come in our mind that this lady is only a role model for women. This is not a reality. But how can we tell if we've actually taken this lady as a role model in our lives or not? One very important indication is for us to understand that in Islam, and this is a very scary reality at times, it's something that we must wake up to. The reality is that in Islam, words don't hold value until they're supported and backed by actions. There's many instances of this. If you look at the Holy Quran, there's a very beautiful verse, Surah Nisa, verse number 81. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. وَيَقُولُونَ طَاعَةً. It talks about a group of people. And it says these people, their slogan, in my words, the Quran says, وَيَقُولُونَ, they say. But this is what they're calling out. وَيَقُولُونَ طَاعَةً. Obedience. They call out obedience. But then what happens? فَإِذَا بَرَزُوا مِنْ عِنْدِكَ بَيَّتَ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْهُمْ غَيْرَ الَّذِي تَقُولُ. But then when they distance themselves from the Holy Prophet, when they move away, a group of these people, come night, means after some time passes, what happens? They change. Their actions are different to what they said. What does Allah say? وَاللَّهُ يَكْتُبُ مَا يُبَيِّتُونَ. Allah knows the reality, the hidden reality that a person has. فَأَعْرِضْ عَنْهُمْ وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. So leave this group of people alone. Or there's a very beautiful hadith. Now this is a hadith again, there's one for us to search and for us to look into. I'm reading parts of the Arabic, so if you want to make a note or a mental note, you can search these later. Nahjul Balagha, there's a beautiful hikmah. A man comes to our first Imam and he says, "Oh Imam, give me wa'adh. Give me some sort of warning, some piece of advice." And the Imam has a long talk for him. He explains to him different points. I'll just read one part. He says, "La takun mimman yarju al-akhirah bighayri amal." Don't be amongst those people that hope they'll have a rank in the akhirah, but they're not ready to act according to that. يُرَجِّ التَّوْبَةِ بِطُولِ الْأَمَلِ. They delay tawbah because of their wishes and their wants of this world that they have. يَقُولُ, this is exactly the part that I'm saying. يَقُولُ فِي الدُّنْيَا بِقَوْلِ الزَّاهِدِينَ. If you see their talk in this world, they talk like those people who are zahid, abstinent. They're careful of their expenditure in a very general sense. وَيَعْمَلُ فِيهَا بِعَمَلِ الرَّاغِبِينَ. These people, their words are zuhd. Their words are not eating much, not sleeping much, being careful, not being spendthrifty. But you see their actions are of people that long for this world. So this is a scary reality for us, that if we want to call this great lady our role model, but if it's just going to remain in words, if this is just going to be a sentence on our tongues, then we should know that this doesn't hold value. This isn't what the Imam says when he says that, for me and the daughter of the Holy Prophet, there's a role model. This is just saying words. This doesn't have value in it. There's a beautiful story over here that's mentioned in our hadith books, that a man tells his wife, it's really beautiful. If you think about this story, there's a lot of points that you can take from this story. A man tells his wife that, "Oh my wife, go to this great lady, Lady Fatima salamullah alayha, and ask her." What should I ask her? فَسَلِيهَا عَنِّي. Ask her about me. What's my status? What's my rank? What's my position? أَنَا مِنْ شِيعَتِكُمْ أَوْ لَسْتُ مِنْ شِيعَتِكُمْ. Am I amongst your Shia or am I not amongst your Shia? This is the same question we have, right? When we say role model, what's the criteria? We said words are not the criteria. This person, he's asked his wife to go to this great lady and ask her. And she goes to this great lady and asks her, and our great lady, Hazrat Zahra salamullah alayha, gives her a very, very concise answer, but a very powerful answer. She says to her, قُولِي لَهُ, go and tell your husband. Very simple criteria. There's no complication in the criteria. إِن كُنْتَ تَعْمَلُ بِمَا أَمَرْنَاكَ. If you act upon those things that we instructed you to act upon. وَتَنْتَهِي عَمَّا زَجَرْنَاكَ. And you refrain from those things that we forbid you from. فَأَنْتَ مِنْ شِيعَتِنَا. Then know that you are amongst our Shia. Is there a gray area here? Is there a hope for anything? وَإِلَّا فَلَا. And if not, then you're not amongst our Shia. The reality, if we want to have this great lady as our role model, is that words don't hold value. A person has to make sure that their life becomes a life that is in line with the life of this great lady. This is what it means to have her as our role model. The words are very easy to say, but to have this action is where we need to strive. I'll just mention one or a brief mention of a second point, 2 points about parts of her life that we can practically take as examples, as a role model in our lives. One very important point in the life of this great lady. Now, this is one that in every place that we want to speak about this, we have to be careful how we put this across. Because people have so many preconceptions and misconceptions before we begin talking, that the wrong way of saying this can make them completely turn off and switch off, and they won't listen to you. But this is something that's a reality, and we need to understand this properly. What is this? The reality is that this great lady was a role model for us in one of the aspects of her life. What is this aspect? The fact that she was the best of daughters. In fact, not the best of, the best daughter, and the best wife, and the best mother. Now see, as soon as you say this, some people who have certain questions in their minds start saying, okay, so now you're pulling down her level. You're bringing her down and saying that, okay, she's somebody that was excellent in the area of her house. The wider society, this is not for women. As Zahra, salamullah alayha, that was the best of women. This is the range of her effect on society, limited to her house. These people, now I'll try and respond to this. These people are people that say that my role model is Bibi Fatima salamullah alayha. Many of them, some of them may not, but many of them do. But then, when it comes to the way they want to dress, they say that, look, we dress the way that we want. Interaction with the opposite gender, na mahram, the way that we want. Social activities, men and women are exactly equal, no difference. All social activities and social rights must be given in the same manner to both men and women. In fact, these people, they come and say that, look, what are you guys talking about this great lady? You know, this lady, Hazrat Zahra, salamullah alayha, was the one that went and spoke to the Khalifa of her time. She presented her case. She went into society and she spoke. She's very outspoken. The quick answer to this part is that if you look at the hadith, you'll find that it's the very opposite. If you look at the hadith of how she went into the society, lathat khimaraha, she took her covering and tightly covered it over herself. She was very careful of when she went, and she only went when there was no other way. She was the one that was entitled to the property. So she went to put her case forward. And you don't find many instances of this in history either. The way she went, and there's many other, if you just search again the word lathat khimaraha, it's in Balaghatun Nisa, you see the whole hadith, how she went with who, how she was walking. All of these things show that, unfortunately, these people have just heard one part of the story and want to make a law of it. And of course, there's many ahadith where this same great lady has taught us that how a woman should carry herself in society. So now this is one of the excuses they may bring up. But I've given the quick answer to it. Let's come back to the whole picture. What's the whole picture? That what is the role of a woman in society according to this great lady? Now, to understand this properly, we need to clear some misconceptions from our mind. We need to put some thoughts aside. Some thoughts that, alhamdulillah, the crowd I'm speaking to, maybe we don't have these ideas. But if anyone else that we're speaking to does, we need to put these thoughts aside and let's look at this great lady and analyze her life. The beauty that you find in this lady is that she was a mother, like I mentioned, all the relations, like no other, and she was extremely proud of this. Look at this hadith. These are the hadith we need to contemplate over. This in Qurbul Isnad. The hadith says that Imam Ali and Hazrat Fatima salamullah alayha went to the Holy Prophet. And they said to the Holy Prophet, "O Holy Prophet, make a judgment between us that who should do which work." Again, we might have heard these hadiths. We need to think about them. And the Imam said, the Holy Prophet said that, فَقَضَى عَلَى فَاطِمَةٍ بِخِدْمَةِ مَا دُونَ الْبَابِ. Anything that's within the door, that's the job of the great lady, Hazrat Zahra salamullah alayha. And outside of that, the work to do at the house, outside of that is the work of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Now, as soon as we hear this, the idea that can come into our minds is that, look at this. What kind of an explanation is this? Look at the role that's being given. This isn't correct. This isn't equality. This isn't, and it'll go on. But look at this great lady herself. Look how she concludes. فَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَا دَاخَلَنِي مِنَ السُّرُورِ إِلَّا اللَّهِ بِإِكْفَاءِ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ تَحَمُّلَ رِقَابِ الرِّجَالِ. Only Allah knows how pleasured I was, how happy I was, how satisfied I was that the Holy Prophet relieved me of certain responsibilities that are responsibilities of the men. Now, look, if you see this as a value in itself, if you see that being in society itself as a value, or in of itself, then this hadith will never make sense to you. But if you try and take a step back and say that what are the real values? What really gives merit to a person? What really gives rank to a person? Is it doing certain activities like this? This hadith clearly tells us, and many other hadith, that the lady, this great lady, our example, the example of our 12th Imam, is saying that these roles in of themselves don't carry any value. In fact, some of these roles are very difficult. These roles are not things that we should be longing to do. Why is it that we have this inclination towards these roles? What value do they hold? But you see, in the world today, these same roles are being given value in society. Sometimes a nice way of giving an example to this is that, you say, women, what do you feel? Somebody comes and asks you, what do you feel about women working? And now you're stuck because there's so much discussion that it's tough to explain this concept. It's very difficult to put across this concept. Sometimes you can use a very simple example. You can say that, for example, working is not always so celebrated. It's not so amazing to work, right? There's certain works that you may see and may enjoy the work of. But work is mainly mundane, boring, tiring, difficult, often includes things that, for example, dirt, these things that we don't even enjoy working with. Why are we making this a value in society? Why is society looking at this as a value in of itself? This word is important. Fi nafsi. Right? In of itself. Sometimes the same work, if done for the right reason, sometimes will have value. But the work in of itself doesn't have any value. And this is what this great lady is teaching us. And now, when you look at the other aspects of her life, this makes so much sense. Now, somebody can say that, okay, fine, we accept this point of view. These work don't have value, but show me the value of this great lady with regards to other men as well. Come to the closeness that this great lady had with Allah. That's the only thing in this world that holds intrinsic value is the connection a person has with Allah. Now look at this great lady. This is mentioned in Ilal al-Shara'i. Imam Hassan alayhi salam is the narrator of this hadith. He says that I saw my mother, Hazrat Zahra salamullah alayha, قامت في محرابها ليلة جمعتها فلم تزل راكعة ساجدة حتى اتضح عمود الصبح. My mother, I saw her praying on a Thursday night, and she was praying in sajda, in ruku, until the light of Fajr came up. Or you have many hadith that say that she was called Zahra because the light would be so bright that the houses around her would be taken by this light of her ibadah. In fact, we have hadith Qudsi that Allah says that this great lady, when she stands in the mihrab, the malaika are looking at her. When it comes to the real value, This great lady has no less than the other women or any other men. Rather, she is greater than all of them. And that's why if you look at this hadith, now this hadith in this light makes sense. Sometimes hadith may be a bit difficult for us to understand. لولا أن الله تبارك وتعالى خلق أمير المؤمنين. If Allah was not to create Imam Ali عليه السلام, لفاطمة ما كان لها كفو على ظهر الأرض. There would be nobody that was suitable and equivalent for her on the face of this earth. Is that enough emphasis? No. من آدم ومن دونه. From Adam and all the way down. There would be nobody equivalent. These are values. Not to have a job in society that, if you ask men, they say that this job, I'm tired of it. It's a mundane task. The same way other tasks are mundane. This isn't value. Value is in a person's closeness to Allah. Now this is, when a person says a role model, we have to pay attention to the realities. Not just we say that she's a role model, and then you see a person's views, actions, dressing, talking, everything is against this role model. What's the value of saying role model? I can say my role model is somebody else as well. Saying it, does it have any value? No. This is one point that this great lady shows us in her life. Another key point that you find in this great lady is how she stood by the truth. And my dear brothers and sisters and elders, this is a reality that in today's world, in the last 2 months, we are understanding the reality of standing by the truth. Look at how many people around the world, all over the world, are being attracted to Islam. Why? Because of a group of people that are standing by the truth. They're resisting based on values. And this is a lesson that has been learned from who? None other than this great lady. When our 12th Imam says that there's a zalim, but I see my exemplar, my role model here to be the daughter of the Holy Prophet, look how she stood by the truth. Whatever she could do, she could say, she could discuss, she could teach, she could impart, she did. Wherever she could go to pass the message of the truth, she did. Even if it meant that she had to go in front of the Khalifa of the time and speak to him. Look at the khutbah of this great lady. Look at the khutbah. It's sad for us as Shias if we've not looked through this khutbah. Balaghatun Nisa has it. It's a very old book. And there are many other sources that have narrated it as well. Look through this khutbah and look how she speaks. Look how she stands by the truth. In one of the lines, so she speaks about the khutbah in the presence of the Khalifa. And there's many lines here. She also has a talk when the women of Medina come to visit her in her house. Again, she sees it upon herself. They ask her, how are you? And she says, this world doesn't hold value for me. Inside of her, she's not been bothered in her true reality. She's not been bothered by this dhul, but she'll stand with the truth. And that's why, rather than complaining about the different things that may have happened to her, she stands and says that if only you people would have stood by Amirul Mu'mineen, what would the society be today? And look how she mentions it. The pure water. Look at the hadith are present in front of you. She stood by the truth wherever. There's no place where she said that, no, I'm not able to stand over here. This is too much, this is too difficult. When it's the time to stand, she was there. She put herself forward. And this is why this great lady must be a role model for us in all of the different aspects of our life. Not just by words, in the way that we talk, in the way that we speak, in the way that we dress, in the way that we communicate with each other, in the way that we are with our family members. In all of these aspects, we have to study her life. How is it that we claim a role model? When somebody asks us, how was her demeanor in her house, with her husband, with her children? We say, we don't know. Then how can you take her as a role model? We must know. Let's take our hearts to the city of Medina. صلى الله عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء. This lady gave everything she had, standing in the path of truth. She put herself forward in places that we cannot even imagine, we can't even picture the instances and what history has narrated for us. The Holy Prophet had told the Muslims, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا, I don't ask for any reward. إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى, I only ask for love and affection to my close ones. O Holy Prophet, but what did these people do to this great lady after you? O Prophet, if you had told them to trouble and harass her as much as possible, I don't think they would have done more than they had done. It's narrated that in the last days of the life of the Prophet, he whispered in the ears of his beloved daughter. The people around say that they saw her very sad and with a lot of grief. The Holy Prophet then again whispered something to her, and then they saw a smile on the face of this great lady. They came to her afterwards and says, "Oh lady, what did the Prophet tell you?" She said, "The Prophet told me that it is in this sickness that he will leave the world. And because of that, a lot of grief entered my heart." "Oh lady, but what did he tell you next that caused for you to smile?" She says, "He told me that I'm going to be the first person that joins him after him." What did they do to this lady that such a state has come upon her? Shaykh Tusi in Amali narrates that on the last day, مرضت فاطمة فلما كان اليوم الذي ماتت فيه قالت هيئ لي ماء فصببت لها فاغتسلت كأحسن ما كانت تغتسل. On the last day of our mother's life, she said, "Bring me some water." And she washed herself the best way that she has ever done so. ثم قالت ائتيني بثياب جدد فلبستها. Bring me good clothes, and she wore these clothes. In Kashf al-Ghumma, Irbili mentions the story like this. He says, on her last day, she told Asma, "Oh Asma, I'm going into the room. Oh Asma, after some time, call upon me. And if you see I don't respond, then know that I've left this world." Just put yourselves in the place of Asma. I can imagine her wanting to call out to her master again and again, just to ensure that she is still amongst us and hasn't left this world. Asma says, فَانْتَظَرَتْهَا هُنَيْهَةً ثُمَّ نَادَتْهَا. It's narrated that Asma stopped for a little while, waited for a little while, and then she called out, فَلَمْ تُجِبْهَا, and she didn't hear a response. فنادت يا بنت محمد المصطفى يا بنت أكرم من حملته النساء. O the daughter of the Holy Prophet, O the person that was held, the best of women that was held. يا بنت خير من وطئ الحصى. O the daughter of the one, the best of those who've stepped on this earth. يا بنت من كان من ربه قاب قوسين أو أدنى. O the daughter of the one who was so close to his Lord. فَلَمْ تُجِبْهَا. But Asma doesn't hear any response. She enters the room and moves the cloth from the face of this great lady. And she finds that she is no longer amongst them. In this state, our two Imams, Imam Hassan and Hussein, come in and they say to Asma, "Oh Asma, why is it that we see our mother sleeping at this time?" They enter the room and they call out, "Ya Ummah, kallimini." Oh my mother, talk to me قبل أن تفارق روحي بدني, before my soul leaves my body. Here Imam Hussein steps forward and begins kissing the feet of his mother. He calls out, "Ya Ummah, أنا ابنك الحسين, أنا ابنك الحسين, كلميني." Oh my mother, I'm your son Hussein. Oh mother, speak to me قبل أن ينصدع قلبي. At this point, the two young Imams leave the house. Asma tells them, "Go to your father and tell him what's happened." They go towards the mosque. The people around them see the state of these young Imams. They tell them, "Oh Imams, ma yubkikuma, why is it that we see you crying?" But these young Imams run towards the Imam of their time. They turn to the Imam and they say that the reality is that our mother is no longer amongst us. Oh Mu'mineen, look at what happens to Amirul Mu'mineen. The narration says, فَوَقَعَ عَلِيٌّ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. At this point, our Imam falls upon his face. يقول, look at this sentence of our Imam. بمن العزاء يا بنت محمد. O daughter of the Holy Prophet, who can I seek condolence from in your loss? كنت بك أتعزي. You are the one that would give me condolence. ففيما العزاء من بعدك. Now who can I seek any condolence from after losing you? ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون.